And we're live.
I think we're live, and it is a
I
football
think we
show.
are. It is about what it sounds like. It is a show.
About football. We're finally
Yeah.
doing it. I mean, like we've talked about this for a while. I mean, we had the halftime show, and then we thought about doing another show, and now we're finally doing a football show. And I'm excited because I forgot to take your comment down from the thing. It's commentception over here.
The truth about that comment was I was like just wanting to join the chat section because I thought people were in the chat section. So I typed it in and I was talking to myself, but it showed up on our feed. So Jake was kind of haunted for a second by that.
Yeah, I mean that was a little freaky. So welcome everyone. We're gonna be talking about football because it's called a football show, and we got some stuff to talk about. Alexis, I mean, you used to be the biggest fan of Aaron Rodgers. I don't think you still are, but
Nope.
this is still news.
It is news. For people who are not aware, the current status of Aaron Rodgers. So I think most people know that Aaron Rodgers and the Packers' future is very much up in the air, and it probably doesn't exist. It doesn't look like as time goes on that Aaron Rodgers really has a future with the Packers. And as of right now, what we know, information that's available to the public is that Aaron. Oh, yep. Jake.
He's going here, I think, but
well, yeah, he is meeting right now in California with the Jets organization. So I think the writing's on the wall. I'd be very, very surprised, Jake, and I'll let you give your thoughts on this because you cover the Jets. So you're much more in tune with what's going on kind of in the Jets universe than I am. But I mean, it doesn't look like it looks like that Aaron Rodgers is either going to the Jets or retiring, right?
yeah, I mean, people have thrown out. What about the radar? No, not the radar. The Raiders. People have thrown out the Raiders because of Devontae Adams, and
right.
I don't think that's enough. Like, I don't know how Aaron Rodgers looks at the Raiders, the way they treated Derek Carr for one, but two, like they're bringing back Josh Jacobs. They're paying him big money, with that the franchise tag. I don't think that makes any sort of sense. So I think it's really, like you said, the Jets are nothing. And the Jets have a defense. The Jets have Breece Hall. The Jets have Garrett Wilson. They have pieces. Like, they're an interesting team here. They got some pieces on the offensive line. Elijah Vera Tucker, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to go to the Jets. I mean, it seems to me like he's going to follow Brett Favre's footsteps exactly. And it's very weird. It's ironic. But I think the Packers need to find out now or never whether or not they need to keep Jordan Love. What do they have in this guy?
And that what the Packers has portrayed, I think, to the public, and again, you never know what's true and what's not, right? But they are making it kind of appear that they are sold on Jordan Love, right? Like they are going in with Jordan Love this season. I'm undecided if I think they should do that. I'll be honest, again, I'm obviously not like an expert in all things Jordan Love, but what I've seen from him since he's been in the NFL has been underwhelming compared to what I thought we were going to see from him. Right. And I know that's a little unfair to say because he's been backing up Aaron Rodgers. He hasn't had as much opportunity that a lot of other quarterbacks in his class have had. So it is a little unfair. I'll be honest about that. I don't know what I think the Packers are going to do. I don't know if they really are going to stick with Jordan Love, if they're going to go after a free agent. I definitely don't think they're going to target anybody in the draft, but if they do trade Aaron Rodgers, they're going to have 2 first-round picks this year.
So I'm actually hearing they might not get that. They might
not. You don't think?
Yeah, they might not even get a first rounder. Because think about this. Yeah, I know. I was surprised to hear that too, but if you think about it, it makes sense because you're like, yeah, he's this great quarterback, but he's entering his 40s soon and he doesn't have much left in the tank. He's flirted with retirement. And I mean, this guy has, like, let's be honest, I like Rodgers. I'm a fan of Rodgers. I've been a fan of Rodgers, but we got to be honest with ourselves. We don't even like Rodgers does not even know what he wants. It's like 1 year, okay, I'll sign a 5-year deal or whatever with the Packers, and now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I'm kind of done with the Packers. It's like this guy cannot really make up his mind right now, and the thing with the Jets is like I could totally see him going there and them winning a Super Bowl, or I could see him going there. They have some injuries, and then all of a sudden he wants out, right? Like, what if like the whole offensive line, they go through like a Rams offensive line injury woe, right?
Oh
And
God.
now all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers wants out. And now you invested whatever you invested in. It's like, that's not really our fault, but that's what ended up happening, right? So
But I
it's,
think
I
the
don't know.
Jets I think the Jets are in a situation though where it's like they don't really have another I don't want to say they don't have another option, right? Cuz you could go get Jimmy Garoppolo, but I feel like the Jets feel and I agree with them that like they're just a quarterback away. And I think
They
you feel
are.
that way too.
Yeah.
So I think for the Jets it's like it's worth the risk, right? They look at their offense and their that has, young stars, defense as well. I mean, Sauce Gardner, but they've got some other guys too. So I think that they are in the mindset of like now or never. What quarterback are we going to sign, even if it is 4 year, right? Even if it's just on a year deal, what quarterback are we going to get that's going to lead us deep into the playoffs and to a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
That's where I think they're at. And so I think of all the quarterbacks that are available right now, I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers. I think Carr would have also been I don't think Carr would have been as good of an option, but I do think that there was mutual interest between the Jets and Carr, but I think for whatever reason he just liked New Orleans better. Um, but I don't know. It says a lot that they're meeting with Aaron in California right now.
It does. And, I think when you look at the Jets, they were really interested in Derek Carr. That whole thing was weird, but it actually makes a lot of sense. I think he always wanted to be reunited with Dennis Allen, and he got that opportunity. They have a really good rapport and everything. So he goes to the Saints. They're going to bring back Michael Thomas. If he stays healthy, Michael Thomas had 170 receptions in a season, right? So, this guy clearly is, talented. Then you have Olave, you have Alvin Kamara. So, I understood why Carr chose them because of the fact they do have some pieces and he has the familiarity with the head coach. But it was really interesting because at one point it looked like it was going to be the Jets. So, I don't know if we'll ever know this. I don't think we have to know this, but did the Jets choose him or did they is this like a, hey, we want Rodgers type of deal? And he's like, I'm not going to wait. Because the way it made it sound like they almost kind of pushed him
Yeah.
out. And it was like, all right, he's signing with the Saints. It's all over. Where did that come from? Because all we were hearing about was, oh, it's going to be the Jets. It's going to be the Jets. It's going to be the Jets. But, now it's like Rodgers. And if they don't get Rodgers, Alexis, then I think they pivot to Lamar Jackson. I think they throw 3 first-rounders or whatever they have to. Probably 2 first-rounders, and they probably sign him and, do that whole thing. But I think they're going to get
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson if they don't get Rodgers.
I agree. Well, I think those are their top 2 choices. I think the Jimmy Garoppolo thing was I don't know if it was ever an actual option for the Jets or if that was just speculation. I think Jimmy's going to I actually think he's going to end up in Vegas if Vegas doesn't trade up with the Bears for number 1. Um, I'm not sure what I think is going to happen there yet, but yeah, I think it just all goes back to like we said. I think the Jets are a quarterback away from a
Yeah.
Super Bowl. So in their mind, I think the Aaron Rodgers risk, like you mentioned, is it's probably worth it. It's probably justified. And at least for Aaron Rodgers, you probably are giving up less than you would be to get Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and can we also just nip this in the bud now? The Jets aren't trading any of their rookie of the years that they have for Aaron Rodgers. So I've seen that. I don't know if you've seen that on Twitter, but people are like, it's going to cost a first and it's Garrett Wilson. Why would the Jets do that? They're trying to add on, right? We're talking about them being a quarterback away. That's not taking away guys, right? Because all of a sudden, if you're trading away Sauce Gardner, you're not as good, And I think that's the thing that kind of gets lost. The Jets also made a really good move, and we can move on to the next topic here, but I just wanted to bring this up. I don't know if you saw Chuck Clark. I'm a big fan of him, 27 years old, very underrated safety in this league. And, he's playing good ball in Baltimore, but the thing is they have safeties. You know, they got your guy Kyle Hamilton, and they don't really need him anymore. So they send him away. They get a seventh round pick in 2024. It's a Joe Douglas masterclass essentially, and what he's going to do is replace LaMarcus Joyner, who's going to be a free agent. So now you have him and you have Jordan Whitehead. I really like what the Jets are doing. That was a brilliant pickup, and they didn't have to give up anything from this draft class. It's pretty interesting what they're doing, and I think they're putting themselves in a really good position where now it's like, I'm not saying you get Chuck Clark and now Rodgers wants to join you, but things like that do help.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Baltimore, let's talk about their current quarterback, Lamar Jackson, because that is also a hot topic right now in the NFL. Jake, I don't know what I think about this situation. I'm going to let you preface what's going on because you probably could explain it better than I am. But it's essentially like Lamar Jackson wants a really, really huge contract and has he formally requested a trade, or is that hearsay?
You
I
know,
don't know if it's formal yet, but
yeah,
like he's
I
being
don't
shopped.
know. I mean, I think in a perfect world, Lamar Jackson gets his fully guaranteed contract and he stays in Baltimore. I think he wants to stay in Baltimore, but I think he knows. And you know, let's take a step back and remember something here. The deleted tweet, you know, by Rashad Bateman, his teammate. I don't know if you saw that, but he was ripping Eric DeCosta, like just tearing him to shreds. Mike Davis, former teammate, ripping Eric DeCosta. There's something going on here. And what does that tell your football team when you go out and you acquire Roquan Smith and you sign him, who just joined the roster before you sign Lamar Jackson, who is an MVP level quarterback? He won an MVP. I think, and I don't know if I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. Alexis, I kind of feel like the league's colluding against Lamar Jackson. Why did we all of a sudden get all of these teams that were like, nope, I'm out. I don't care if he's an MVP. I don't care that he's dynamic. I don't care that he's one of the most explosive players in the NFL. I'm not interested. Washington came out. Atlanta came out. Where are all these reports? We don't see that about anybody.
Well,
why are we seeing this about Lamar?
I do. Okay, so I have a few thoughts on this. One, I will say this is just a tactic that I think a lot of NFL teams use to not show their hand.
They do.
Anytime
yeah.
a team comes out and says, I'm not interested in acquiring X player, I automatically assume that they are, right? And you never really know. Like the truth is we're never really going to know. If the Falcons aren't communicating with Baltimore right now, are they? Probably not going to know until just before something happens. So I'm not sure that I buy all those reports. Secondly, my interpretation and like what my assumption is I think ever since the Deshaun Watson contract, teams are not super psyched to do the guaranteed money. That's the way that I'm taking it. Teams do not want to give a lot of guaranteed money. And Lamar has kind of made it known. And again, this is what the reports are. Lamar hasn't said otherwise to my knowledge. Is like he's asking for a lot of guaranteed money. Now, do I think Lamar is worth it? Probably. But as an NFL organization, like if it's me and I'm a GM, I'm scared to offer that. And not just for, any reason, injuries, things going sour with the team, a player wanting out. It just gets really complicated. So that's what I think is going on. But I also don't buy the reports that all these teams are just like, oh, we're not even going to discuss Lamar Jackson. I think it's not real, but I don't know. I don't think I would say collusion, but
I think it's possible because of what he's trying to do. Because he's trying to make it so, like, his type of player is getting fully guaranteed. He's trying to make that the norm. And so if owners are like, no, this is going to kill our game, then yeah, I mean, I could see them colluding against Lamar Jackson. And that's probably why we were getting all of those all at once. But to your point, that might not even be like real, right? That might just be hearsay and whatnot. And it might just be false reporting. I don't know. There were a lot of different teams that came out about it. It was really odd. Something weird is going on with the whole Lamar Jackson thing. Now, I will play devil's advocate here, Alexis, and I'll say this. I love Lamar Jackson. He's one of my favorite players in the league. But Lamar Jackson, even as like a fantasy football owner of his in a dynasty league that you and I are in, I've considered getting rid of him because he isn't always healthy. Like, he gets off to these great starts. He's got these dominant games, but it's every year now he's dealing with something injury wise.
And
So,
that could be where the guaranteed money makes people afraid, right? Because that, like I said, I think teams in general are very hesitant to do that because there's a lot of reasons why that could not work out. Um,
yeah.
and I think especially with Lamar's injury history, it makes it even less appealing. But I will say there are so many quarterbacks right now, getting paid um, who I think are better than or aren't better than Lamar, right?
I
Lamar is
know.
better than I mean, look at Geno Smith. I mean, and I like Geno Smith. Okay, this isn't shade to Geno Smith, and he's obviously he didn't get as big of a contract as Lamar is asking for, but I'm just using this as an example of teams willing to invest in their quarterback. Um, I think Lamar is certainly worth it. I don't know off the top of my head the exact number the reports are saying that he wants, but man, I mean, Deshaun Watson got it. I don't see any reason why Lamar shouldn't if Deshaun got that contract. But
Oh, God.
again, look at how that turned out with the guaranteed
Yeah.
money, and I get that situation was also just like a lot different. So I don't want
Kirk
to like compare
Cousins.
them.
No one ever talks about him. He was the one that get
Right.
the fully guaranteed, the first fully guaranteed, if I'm not mistaken, for the quarterback position, $30 million a year. And I mean, I kind of had this realization this past year with Kirk Cousins, Alexis.
Hmm.
He's not going to get you over the hump. He finally had the offensive minded coach in KOC, and we saw Justin Jefferson was like a lightning rod. Like, he exploded the way we expected under KOC, but Cousins just didn't move the needle. That team should have
No.
probably been in the NFC title game, probably competing for a Super Bowl. You could say, yes, Ed Donatel and his defense weren't very good, and they are fixing that this year, with Flores. But how is Cousins ever going to win a ring at this point? And another thing I'll say, he's 6 months younger than Matthew Stafford, and people act like he's still like 28 years old. I mean, like, the time is now. If this guy isn't going to win one, like, I don't know what to say. And he's like, the reason I brought him up is the fully guaranteed contract. But you get my point is like, these fully guaranteed contracts really haven't worked. They haven't. So, I mean, to their point, I kind of understand it with Lamar. But it does kind of just, it gives me some like collusion vibes. That's basically what I was getting at.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely gives weird vibes. My thing would just be that everyone is just lying.
Yeah.
That's my uh,
Everyone's a liar.
and speaking of lying, Jake, there's a report that came out today from Lombardi, Mike Lombardi. Wasn't really a report, it was a statement that he made. Um,
Pat
basically,
McAfee show.
yeah, on the Pat McAfee show, that the Rams were trying to move Matthew Stafford, and that the talks had been being had. Maybe 3 hours later, Les Snead comes out on a separate show, and he says that's not true. He made it very clear that Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald were not going anywhere. So a couple things, and I know we have a lot of Rams fans in the chat, which is why I'm curious to see you all contribute your thoughts on this. But here's what I'm taking from the situation. One, he did not bring up Jalen Ramsey. He didn't bring up Jalen Ramsey, and a lot of Rams fans have been speculating on Twitter and other social medias that the Rams are looking to shop Jalen Ramsey. It's been reported too, so it's not like it's just conspiracy. Like, there are reports that the Rams are trying to move Jalen Ramsey. So that's the first thing that I took away from Les Snead's comment. The second thing, Jake, you and I have a lot of thoughts on this, was when he was basically calling what the Rams are doing right now a remodel and not a rebuild. And I saw that and I was like, this is PR 101. If I've ever learned anything about marketing or PR, it is you take words and you twist them around and you phrase them to not scare people. But it might be true. I'm gonna let you give your thoughts because there's a lot of different things that this could mean. But I first want to hear your thoughts on the Matthew Stafford thing because when that news came out, people like exploded about this, and me too. I didn't believe it, but I got like that little nervousness in my heart where I was like, I don't believe this, but what if I'm delusional? Like, could this be real? So what is your thought?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm tired of all of these, like, it's these analogies and stuff. I think it's just a long way of saying, like, there's going to be major changes, and they're trying to, like you said, very much slow play it, PR play it. I mean, they're trying to keep you, I just said I hate analogies, but I'm about to make a poker one. They're trying to keep you in the hand, right? So they have a hand, they got a decent hand right now that they're playing, and they're slow playing it. They're not raising, they're not showing their cards. They are calling. They're not going all in or anything like that. They're not showing you that they have something. They're trying to get you to put more into the pot, right? And that is where you, me, and just any fan, we are the people that are calling their call, and we're putting more money into this pot to stay in the hand, to see what is it that they're doing. What is it that I'm holding? Why did I not fold yet? Why am I still in this hand? Why? And I think the big thing here is that they are trying to bring us in to try to say, look, there's going to be changes, but it's okay, because now they're going to package it in a way where they're going to say, well, come on now. We have Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald. And it's almost like they're going to forget. They're going to act like, Ramsey and Floyd, all these guys just never existed. And that was my biggest worry, is that they were going to act like this is the new normal. This shouldn't be the new normal. And I can't stress it enough, Alexis. I don't like this at all, because this is the time to strike. Has the NFC ever been easier? I mean,
Right.
Rodgers is leaving. Brady retired. Now you're talking about Derek Carr just came over, and now he's considered a top 5 quarterback in the conference. I mean, all the dominant quarterbacks are in the other conference. Right now, it's Stafford, it's Jalen Hurts, and Jared Goff, arguably, are your top 3 quarterbacks in the NFC. If that doesn't tell you that the time is now to strike, I don't know what's going to. So I don't like this.
Well,
I've made that very clear, but I'll say this. The Stafford thing, there's no logical explanation to trade Stafford. The Rams, keep this in mind, because of his contract, Alexis, would probably have to trade picks with Stafford so a team could take on his contract. That's stupid. And how does that look as an organization? The only 2 quarterbacks that won you a Super Bowl, and you tossed them like they were street trash. Like not even 3-4 years later. Kurt Warner, Stafford in this case.
yeah, well, yeah, and that's the thing, when you start really thinking about what it would take for the Rams to move Stafford, it's just not even feasible, really. I mean, and if it was, it would just hurt the Rams way more than it would help them. I think my thing with the comments today and everything that came out, in my mind, what I feel the Rams are doing is they're remodeling a house that didn't need to be remodeled.
Yeah.
If we're gonna stick with that kind of cringy analogy,
Oh, it's so cringy.
but this is I'm just rolling with it. In my mind, and I don't know how everyone in the chat is gonna feel about this, but my thing is I felt like when the season ended, we would have been better off if we wanted to contend next season. I don't really see why we couldn't. I get that there was cap issues, there was going to have to be minor changes, right? But I don't get why we couldn't have tried to keep our core together, add some key pieces in the draft, get healthy, and go into next season. That was what I figured was the obvious
Yeah.
move. And I feel what the Rams did is they got impatient and they got antsy, and they start ripping down the walls and taking down the wallpaper and doing the remodel that didn't need to be done. That's the way that I'm interpreting it. And I don't know the situations obviously going on. I don't know if there were players that wanted to leave. I'm not as well versed in the cap as I probably need to be, but it didn't look like the numbers were that insane. I mean, there's certainly been teams that dealt with worse. So I think, when Les, in his interview is talking about, well, at least we have Stafford, Cup, and Donald. In my mind, I'm like, okay, but we could have more. I don't know. And maybe it's just change and we just have to get used to it. But I still feel like this is a lot of unnecessary selling. And who knows? And it would also be different if the Rams drafted better in the past couple years, I would feel a little more optimistic going into this draft. Like, oh, well, maybe we can just sell a couple of these players, get more picks, and we'll just like kill it in the draft. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, they obviously have to have a plan.
Yeah, they clearly have a plan because there's no way you make these type of, franchise altering moves just to make moves, right? Like they're definitely going to have something. It's definitely concerning when you're moving this many guys and you're calling it a remodel and you're trying to prepare the fan base like, oh, it's going to be a remodel. This isn't a remodel. You're taking a wrecking ball to the house and you're leaving the studs left intact, essentially. I mean, like it is ridiculous. And the idea like, oh well, we still have Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald, that's just trying to basically, you know what that is? I'm going to tell you what that is. That's Madden. That is literally Madden NFL football in a nutshell. We're going to take away franchise, like certain things in franchise mode. And then all of a sudden we're going to be like, oh my God, we brought it back. Like, can you believe this new feature? It's like, hey, you dunce, you had this in 2007. Why did you removed it? And then you just ran out of ideas. So you started removing things and then putting them back in the game. And by the way, this is why I don't play the game anymore, because it's constant just taking stuff out, putting it back in, taking stuff out, putting it back in. So, I mean, is that not what the Rams are doing? They're getting rid of Jalen Ramsey. They're getting rid of so-and-so, whatever. And now they're trying to sell us on a core of Kupp, Donald, and Stafford. And think about this. We can love all three all we want. Kupp is the youngest of that group, okay? And he's had ACL tears. He had the, the ankle injury this year. He's like a running back at this point. He has a lot of miles on him because they're just force feeding him the ball every which way. He also plays in the slot a lot, so he's going to get hit over the middle. So who knows how long he's going to last. And then you look over at Donald, who has 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the NFL. Let's be honest here. Like, wouldn't be surprised if he retired. Wouldn't be surprised if he requested a trade. And then you have Matthew Stafford, who is 35, and I don't think that's relatively old, right? Like, he can still play another 5 years by age, but what is Matthew Stafford in terms of his injuries? Is this guy a 38-year-old in a 35-year-old's body? I mean, we don't know. So the argument here is that they're rebuilding or whatever, they're soft rebooting, like I've been saying. But my biggest issue is that you're saying that you're building around a core of guys that are older, and you're getting rid of Jalen Ramsey, who is 28. He's the best corner in the NFL. And that is your argument, is that like, oh, well, we have our core pieces. Like, no. You have your core pieces, but you're pretty much setting yourself up for like a complete like nosedive when your core pieces are gone. And that's the thing, is that, who's to say Stafford even makes it through this season? They got to fix the offensive line. Who's to say that Aaron Donald makes it through this season? I mean, I think this is going to be a problem because what is really upsetting to me, Alexis, is that you and I have kind of both, agreed. It took a little bit, but we both agree that like Raheem Morris's bend don't break defense was best for the defense. Now I feel like they're asking way too much of Raheem Morris and that coaching staff. And keep in mind, it would be a lot to ask for a coaching staff that was intact, but they just completely revamped their defensive side of the coaching staff. And now they're going to bring in all these new starters. I don't like this one bit. I think, their eyes are clearly on 2024, 2025, and 2026. But when you have Donald, you have Stafford and you have, Cooper Kupp, you got to maximize those years. You can't just, throw 1 year away and be like, yeah, we might make the playoffs. We might not. But, we're looking at 2024. And you cannot tell me, and people have said that I'm wrong, but you cannot tell me, Alexis, that this team cares about winning the Super Bowl in 2023. They don't. If they did, they wouldn't be talking about making these moves. They wouldn't be making these moves. They easily could have milked another year of restructures. I went over it on live streams. I showed people they could have saved about $50 to $60 million in cap space just doing restructures and maybe a trade post June 1st. But this is ridiculous. I mean, the thing that's going to piss off fans is the fact, okay, you're getting rid of Leonard Floyd. Well, now you just created a need. You're getting rid of Leonard Floyd. Well, now $19 million in dead money. So you're only saving saving $3 million. That's the big thing that this fan base is going to have a hard time understanding, why they should go out there, why they shouldn't sell their PSLs, why they should even bother going to SoFi Stadium when the product on the field isn't going to be as good. And on top of it, when you look, it's like they're not saving money, but they're creating all of these needs. It's a problem. They're looking at 2024 and they're neglecting the fans of, for 2023. And after a 5-12 season, this fan base deserves better.
I agree. And I think it sends really conflicting messages of, when the offseason started, right? We all thought Sean McVay might leave, and then he's like, I'm coming back. And we're all like, here we go. Like, they're not going to go out on that note, right? Like, after the atrocity that was last season, like, they're coming back with a vengeance. Then we find out Aaron Donald's coming back, and we're like, all right, here we go. It's happening. Like, it's really happening. And then it was like, the Super Bowl ended and like a switch flipped, and it was like fire sale, panic,
turmoil,
remodel, not rebuild. And we're like sitting here like, what's going on? And I really feel, and again, a lot of people might disagree with this. People are always like, you don't know what's going on inside the organization, whatever. But like, it just feels like they're panicking. And I'm very curious, Jake, and this is then just like diving deeper into this conspiracy, is like, would McVay and Aaron Donald not be mad right now?
Yeah, it's
would you think
weird.
Like, if you come back, like if you're Sean McVay, you're considering going to do TV, but you're like, you know what? We had a really, really bad season last season. I can't go out on that note. Like I want to come back with a vengeance. I want to, get healthy, whatever. And then it's like your front office is like, like we're kind of like and he might be involved in this decision. I don't know. But I'm just like thinking it doesn't really line up with what his words and actions were, right? Because it's got the fan base like confused. It's just sending very mixed signals.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know. Like they obviously have a plan, but is it a plan that like is reasonable?
I mean, that's the thing. And like, with this fan base, like, so you're telling me that, this fan base just had to watch you whiff on Christian McCaffrey, watch the Niners get Christian McCaffrey, then watch the Niners have their run, beat the Rams twice last year, go to the playoffs, go to the NFC title game. It's like, I mean, what are you trying to accomplish? I mean, I get, they're looking ahead at 2024, 2025, 2026. I get that. But like, why at this point, why even hang on to any of these players? Why not just start anew entirely? What is the point of having a core group of players that are 30 or, above? That doesn't make sense.
I don't think the Rams realize what they're doing, though.
They're acting like they're the Bengals, though, with like 25-year-old Joe Burrow, 26-year-old Joe Mixon, 23-year-old Jamar Chase, and 22-year-old Higgins.
I don't necessarily disagree, but what I will say is I think the Rams approach like the panic. I don't think the Rams realize they're panicking. I don't think they're a team that is like, okay, guys, we're rebuilding. I don't think they think that that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I think they're overreacting. Like they probably legitimately believe that this is like a remodel, right? But they're behaving as if it's a rebuild. But I do want to throw some comments up, Jake. I think I'd like to see like what everyone's saying about this, because I know people are gonna have a lot of thoughts on this. Just as I've seen them all day.
Let's see here. We got, so what happens if Stafford decides to hang him up after this year? Maybe Cup feels like he's had a career as well. Don't see Donald coming back next year either. We're left with quite the void. That is exactly right. And I mean, just to assume that they're all cool with everything going on, I think is a poor assumption. This is a team that has had a lot of success under Sean McVay, and to just go from that to 5-12 and then be like, yeah, you know what? We're going to just chill in the basement a little bit. We're going to come back up. And like, not everybody. And the thing is, you're playing an incredibly violent sport, incredibly dangerous sport. And it's like these guys' careers, I mean, like we've seen it before. how much longer do these guys have to play? I mean, your career isn't that long unless you play quarterback, and not always, But like that's the thing is like, do you think Aaron Donald wants to run the risk right now? He's CTE free, like he's not going to deal with that. He doesn't have any concussions on his resume, right? So, is he more likely to retire after this season? Is he more likely to retire like soon and try to get out without those injuries? Or is he more likely to wait until he has those injuries and then retire? Like, I think to me, when you're in that position, like it sounds like almost the Rams sold to themselves that they were fine winning one ring. Like they went all out for one ring, and it just doesn't feel, I don't know. And then
I
also
don't
the Stafford thing, the Super Bowl thing, how they're going to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Like, what about those comments? That's the thing. I don't understand all this.
and that's why I feel the Rams don't see what everyone else is seeing. Like I'm probably not explaining this in the best way, but I don't think the Rams, I think that they think what they're doing right now with the overreacting is them setting themselves up. But I think that their mindset is kind of one more out of panic than out of just like, you know, holding your cards. Does that make
Yeah.
sense to anybody but me? Like, I think that like I think they're doing too much. Like, I think this is a definition of doing too much. Like, I don't think they needed to go shake it up this much because like if you look at last season, like we obviously had a lot of flaws. It was not just injuries, but I think that we probably could have addressed it in a different way. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that made sense, but
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, it feels like they did too much, and it feels like maybe they're really going all out to try to be a team with sustained success. It also seems like a team that offense wins championships mentality. We saw the Chiefs, we saw them get rid of Tyreek Hill, we saw them get rid of Honey Badger, we saw them let Javarius Ward leave, and they're just like, all right, well we have the Chris Jones on our defense, Aaron Donald. All right, well we have the Travis Kelce on our offense, Cooper Kupp. All right, we're already paying our quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. We got Matthew Stafford. And then, in that case, it's like you have to hit on your picks now. And the irony is that you have, even though you had the all or nothing, F them picks mentality where they put a lot of pressure on you to hit on your later picks, I would argue you've never had more pressure to hit on your picks than right now. Like this draft, Alexis, if they miss on this draft, it could absolutely crumble them. They need to hit on multiple guys. They need to be able to get, guys that they can count on being starters, this upcoming season. They need to at least get a first round pick out of Jalen Ramsey. To me, I think they need to get at least a first and a third. I don't know if they will, but if they're going to trade Ramsey, that's what they're going to have to do. And just the problem is like, everyone's like, well, it's okay. Like it'll work out. They have a plan. What's their plan, though? Because at the end of the day, what they're doing, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to go on a SPO track, type in what they're doing, put it into the simulator, right? And then realize, wow, that's not saving me a lot of cap. Then how are you going to sign all these guys? I see people are like, oh, well, we should sign this guy. We could sign this guy. Where are you getting the money from? The Rams aren't saving money with these moves in 2023. That is the issue. They're not like, I don't know how much better they can get.
And that's where it kind of goes back to it's not about the money, it's about the way they think the team was composed and how they performed. Right?
Yeah. It's overreacting. I mean,
and that's
overreacting.
Because again, like I don't think we had a normal quote unquote season last season. Like it was just like injury ridden and yeah.
So let's pivot. I want to talk about a topic. I'm going to bring it up. I haven't told Alexis yet, but I'm going to throw it up. Was the Daniel Jones deal a mistake for the Giants? Because I'll tell you right now, Alexis, I got to say it. I feel like Daniel Jones is the Blake Bortles in this story. I think the Giants got lost in the sauce. I think they totally bit the apple, and it's the poison apple. Daniel Jones is not a bad quarterback, but is Daniel Jones worth $40 million? But Jake, he's got a good cap number in 2023. Yes, Alexis, Let's talk about that. A good cap number. What does that sound like? Sounds like the Rams, right? When they got Leonard Floyd for what? He had like a 5 million cap number. Now he's a 22 million. That all comes due. Like that just means that, oh, his good cap number this year is like 20 million so they can actually get some free agents. Yeah, but then his cap number is going to go up to 40 million down the road. Like you're going to have to pay for that. The thing with Daniel Jones is that he showed some promise this year. He got better, obviously as a runner, but I think he got better as a passer. You know, he looked good in the playoffs, whatever. But here's the dilemma. Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr, you got these draft picks. I mean, can you justify like that's the thing. I don't think this was the right move. I feel like they got stuck into this move. They got lost in the sauce, and they got into a Jacksonville Jaguars situation where when the Jaguars in 2017, went to the AFC title game and were that close to going to the Super Bowl with Blake Bortles, they were like, I guess we have to keep Blake Bortles. They didn't think to upgrade. They stuck it out. How much better is Daniel Jones going to get over the next, 2-3 years? That's the question.
Well, I think, and I said this a little earlier, but I feel like historically, after a quarterback gets paid, things go bad. That is usually, unless it's like a Patrick Mahomes, right? Um, I just think I don't know why that is. It probably is coincidental, but I'm very nervous about paying quarterbacks. I think kind of you touched on this a little bit. The Giants got stuck in a situation where they had an incredible year. Daniel Jones looked in very good, better than he ever has, and he looked not just that, he looked good. I mean, he was like every Giants game I watched, I was super impressed. I mean, Daniel Jones had it, right? So not only that, Saquon Barkley was healthy again, which he has not been healthy. So Saquon Barkley's tearing it up. You've got Brian Dable. The Giants just looked very, very good. But then Daniel Jones and Saquon's contracts are up. So I get it. If you're the Giants, are you going to continue to roll with all the chemistry, right, on the team? They really should have made it further in the playoffs with the way the NFC is. I mean, you touched on earlier how the NFC is just so weak. Or do you shake it up and you're like, I know that we were really good this year, but like we don't want to give Daniel Jones the money, so we're just gonna. I mean, what are they gonna do? They didn't have a high draft pick. They probably didn't want to have to trade up in the draft, give away future capital. I mean, most teams don't want to unless it's absolutely necessary. So you're not going to draft a quarterback. And then what free agents do you have? I mean, are you going to be better off with those free agents than you are Daniel Jones? Who are they going to bring in? Like Jimmy Garoppolo?
Well, that's the weird thing. I mean,
it's like at that point, I think what they did is they risked it on Daniel Jones, and I think the good news about the contract is I don't foresee a situation where Daniel Jones gets worse right now, because it's hard to argue when you see the way that the Giants shook things up and how it just like everything clicked. So I don't see it being a regression issue. I think it, hopefully would not be an injury thing.
Yeah, I think Brian Dable is a very good coach. I kept saying last year, as you know, because we talked about it, I just felt like he was the definition of just elevating a team. When you talk about how coaching can make a difference, you watch that Giants team. Were they that talented? Hell no, they were not. Like Isaiah Hodgins became their number one receiver at the end of the year. And I was very excited for him because I like him. I think he's the son or he is the nephew of James Hodgins. I think he's the son. James Hodgins, of course, being the former Ram. But, I feel like when you have a guy like Dable, you don't need to invest that heavily on Daniel. I don't think they should have gone for a 4-year deal. I would not have done that. I would have said, we're going to sign you a 2-year deal. And we're going to give you, whatever. We'll give you $35 million for over 2 years, 35 a year. And that's what I would have done. It is somewhat concerning to me that Daniel Jones wasn't willing to take less money to try to win. And you know, you could say what you will, it's his first contract and all that, but when you are the Giants and you're building something here, you can see it, and you just need a little bit more money to build out that offense, right? Whether it be adding to the offensive line, getting a weapon, it makes you better taking less money. I know it's easy for me to say because it's not my money, but I do think that, you know, ultimately he could have taken less money. We've seen it in the past. Peyton Manning took less money with the Broncos. They were able to, you know, surround him with talent. Tom Brady took less money. You know, I understand this was his first deal, but I just feel like with what they're building with the Giants, they have a very, very good head football coach. I don't know. That might come back to
Well,
bite him.
I think, and it's gonna sound really weird and definitely probably a little ignorant, but I also have noticed when players don't take team-friendly deals and they're not superstars, like Daniel Jones isn't a superstar, it's because they panicked as well, and they're like, "I need to get this contract now."
That was
Because
the vibe I got.
exactly, because he probably knows. Like, I'm not saying that like, Daniel Jones knows that, like, he could very well regress next season and every season after, you know, it's just
Isn't that
his reality.
concerning? That's what my
But
quarterback's
but
thinking of.
but I'm just saying that, like, a lot of times, like, I think when players take huge contracts, everyone's like, "Oh, it's about the money," and, like, it is. The first thing is definitely the money, but the second is also, like, I know I need to sign this deal now, and not take less money now. If I'm gonna get an offer this big, now's my time. But I also do know, from some of my Giants friends who I follow on Twitter, I'm pretty sure Jones and Barkley had said they were a package deal.
That's interesting.
And I don't know if that's true. I saw some Giants people talking about that on Twitter. I don't think they'd have any reason to make that up. But I did feel that if the Giants kept one, they were going to find a way to keep the other, and it would be through a tag, which is what they did. But I think I'm not super worried about the Giants, but I'm not super sold either. I just think they had great chemistry this season. It was incredible. They were really fun to watch. Huge jump from where they were the previous season, and so I get why they're doing what they're doing. They want to roll with that. They want to keep the good times going.
So I want to start this. We're going to do two more segments, at least in my mind. You can come up with whatever you want to wrap up the show. But I think we should do two more segments, right? This upcoming one, this is the hot take segment, right? So right now, Alexis, right on the spot, give me your hot take for the NFL free agency offseason.
I don't know if it's a hot take. This one I don't think is a very hot take. I mean, it might be, but I do think Lamar will stay in Baltimore. I think he ends up staying in Baltimore.
Okay.
Um, the only reason I say hot take for that is I feel like everyone is like super convinced that he wants out so bad and he won't play for the Ravens. And I'm not saying he doesn't want out bad, but I don't think that he's going to get traded. I think he's going to play for Baltimore. I do kind of have this conspiracy theory that the Chargers are going to cut Khalil Mack and Khalil Mack's going to go back to the Bears. I think that is more of a delusion than a hot take, but
I mean, he's probably going to get cut. He's probably going to get cut. But him going back to the Bears.
The Bears have like $100 million in the cap.
That's true.
And they have a ton of draft picks. Like the Bears are in a very good spot, and they also are ascending. I mean, they're not like great, but they are on the rise. I mean, anybody who watched Justin Fields was just like insanity last season. I mean, just I watched him every Sunday. I live in Chicago. That's my local team. I mean, I watched every single Bears game, and Justin Fields would just every game do something that made me think that I was hallucinating. I don't know if Khalil Mack's really going to go to the Bears, but I just kind of hope he does. So, and I've convinced myself of it. Let me try to think of one more hot take.
I got mine locked and loaded.
You go ahead. I don't know. You put me on the spot.
I know. I'm bad. Anyway, okay. Hot take, right? So it's really weird because like Jalen Ramsey's been linked to the Patriots, and I'm like, why? That's so unlike Belichick. Like they don't pay big dollars to corners, and obviously wherever he goes, he's gonna want a reworked deal. But it interests me because I feel like there's going to be some changes with the Patriots, and especially at quarterback. I don't think Mac Jones is going to be the Patriots quarterback this year. I think it's either going to be Bailey Zappi or it is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo or maybe a draft pick. But the point I'm saying this, that's not the hot take. The hot take is where Mac Jones is going to go to. I think the 49ers are going to acquire Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones, it's all gonna come back because let's be honest here, Kyle Shanahan was going to draft Mac Jones, and the NFL fan base and executives and coaches just bullied him into submission to take Trey Lance. That is what happened. They wanted Mac Jones, and they went back on their word, and they went to Trey Lance because they were embarrassed to take Mac Jones at 3 overall. Because they literally traded up to get Mac Jones. And then everyone was like, oh my God, like, no way, no one would ever do that. Mac Jones will be there at like pick 15. That's stupid. And then, they were like, oh crap, that is stupid. And then they went out and they drafted Trey Lance because of the high upside. And trust me, I think Lance, if he does pan out, he'll be a better quarterback. But I think Jones fits their offense. I think Jones has shown you, he did lead the Patriots to the playoffs his first year. His second year was injuries, Bailey Zappi kind of stealing the spotlight. Patriots were just all over the place. The offensive coordinator was literally Matt Patricia, who's a defensive-minded coach. You can't make this stuff up. But Mac Jones, to me, makes sense for the 49ers, and here's why. Everyone's like, Brock Purdy this, Brock Purdy that. I have a sneaky suspicion that Kyle Shanahan believes that Brock Purdy is solid, but what Brock Purdy was doing was it has a lot to do with his offense, right? And so I feel like after watching him go down in the NFC title game and just constantly missing to get over the hump, I think they're going to go and they're going to trade for Mac Jones. I'm not saying Mac Jones is a superstar, but Mac Jones in that offense could be very, very, very good. And I think this is a guy that they've wanted from the jump. And I think maybe they trade Trey Lance somewhere else. I'm not saying he'll go to the Patriots, but I think they could trade Trey Lance. They keep Brock Purdy as number 2, right? But I think they want Mac Jones, and I think he's going to be their guy. That's my big hot take.
I sooner see Jimmy Garoppolo staying with the 49ers than I do them trading for Mac Jones.
He's so gone. I think the Patriots are 100% trading Mac Jones. 100%.
Well, I agree that I wouldn't be shocked if they traded Mac Jones, but I just don't think the 49ers are the team that would take him. I don't know if this is a hot take, but supposedly the Vikings have taken a call or two on Dalvin Cook. And hear me out. If you're trading Jalen Ramsey, I could see the Rams doing a Jalen Ramsey for Dalvin Cook trade. I know it sounds insane.
I would get so mad.
But does that not sound like a Rams-esque move?
I can't even see that because that would be awful. Yeah, that'd be
awful
positional value.
I'm not saying straight up. I think there'd have to be some picks on the Vikings end to us as well. But I just feel like, again, I don't know if the Rams think running back is as big of a need as Rams Twitter does. But I just saw that report come out today, and I was like, this feels like this feels like something the Rams would do. And, I mean, the Vikings could use an upgrade at corner.
Actually, it feels like something, I don't know if the Vikings would trade him in the division, but it sounds like something the Bears would do. Because they have the money, Khalil Herbert was awesome, and he's. I think he deserves to be the guy. But I could see them doing that. There are not many other teams I see. Like Jacksonville has ETN, Houston has Dameon Pierce. There are a lot of teams all over the league that have running backs. If the Rams trade Ramsey for any type of player, I could not see it being somebody like that. I think it would be like a pass rusher. Maybe they trade Ramsey for like Montez Sweat.
Well, so I'm trying to think in my mind really quickly of
of
all the
season.
teams, because if anybody knows me, you know that like I do mock drafts all the time. I do them for fun. I do them when I have nothing to do. I do them when I'm doing other things. I just like to do it. It's like a self-soothing thing for me. I should probably unpack it in therapy. It's a problem. But I'm trying to think in my mind of all of the teams that I could see. Like, I think the Lions, if they didn't make the trade for Ramsey, they're taking a corner first round. Like, I think the Giants, sorry, not the Giants, the Lions could use Jalen Ramsey. A team like the Commanders, a team like the Steelers. Who else? Slipping my mind. Maybe the Falcons. The Falcons also have a lot of cap room. I would hate to see Jalen Ramsey go to a team like the Falcons. I would really like to see him go to a contender.
I don't know if they would do it, but I mean, maybe the Chiefs.
Maybe, but who's that rookie? They have two rookie corners that played really. I mean, they just won a Super Bowl with them.
Yeah,
Watson and
McDuffie and Watson,
McDuffie.
and they also have L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah, so I don't think that like they would be willing to give up much for Ramsey.
Evero might want Ramsey. Maybe he goes to the Panthers. If they're out
I
of
would feel bad.
contention to get Anthony Richardson, I could see the Panthers trading down. And then they trade that pick to the Rams because they're not going to trade a top 10 pick to the Rams, but they might trade down. The Lions do make sense, as much as I'm kind of tired of seeing him in a Lions uniform photoshopped on my feed. The Steelers make sense. They're very much interested in a corner.
Someone in the comments brought up Ramsey for Brian Burns. That is something that I could see if it was going to be a trade. But isn't Brian Burns he's not a free agent, is he?
He's he's going to a contract year, but the thing about him is that I don't think the Panthers are going to let him go.
Well, they didn't want to last season. People were interested.
I couldn't understand why he was available. I mean, it is so rare to find a guy like that.
Well, I think the Panthers kind of couldn't make up it seemed like they just couldn't make their mind up on what last season was to them. Like, was it a rebuild? Was it not? Was it a remodel?
So no, so what I think it was is when they traded McCaffrey, it was right after they lost to the Rams, who, as we found out, weren't a good football team. So the Lions are like, maybe we're not good and we should probably just blow this thing up. And then they realized, you know what? We're not going to get rid of any of these guys. We're going to keep these guys. They got rid of Robbie Anderson, or Chosen Anderson now. I can't, but they got rid of Anderson and they traded away McCaffrey, but they kept everyone else intact. And then all of a sudden you saw Chuba Hubbard run well. You saw Dante Foreman come back from the neck injury and just the Achilles injury that he's had. He's had all sorts of injuries. You saw him come back and run well. Almost 1,000-yard season, and he didn't even start half the year. So I think the Panthers just got to the point where they're like, you know what, we have a chance to win this division, and they came so close. I mean, I would argue that they were robbed because in that Falcons game, I don't know if you remember, Grady Jarrett sacked Tom Brady on like third down, and they would have punted, and they called it a roughing the passer. I'll never forget that. And the Lions were like one game out. So that would have put the Lions in the playoffs if they had lost that game. So I don't know. It's I think Carolina, I've said this, I think Carolina is the best team in that division, and they don't even have a quarterback right now that I trust. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to go out, they're going to get Brissett, and I think they're going to try and get Anthony Richardson. And I think they're going to have Richardson sit behind Brissett. I think Brissett can win you games when you have talent around him. And I don't know. I like the fit, and I like the coaching staff. And what have we learned? I mean, we're just talking about the Giants for, how great their coach is. Coaching staffs matter. And I think the Carolina Panthers all of a sudden have one of the best coaching staffs in the entire NFL.
Well, right. And I'm could you see the Panthers trading with the Bears for number 1 and taking like Richardson? Because
Yeah, I
That
could.
is something that I really feel like, and I feel out of all the quarterbacks, right? Because now it's like you kind of are having this like discourse on, is it going to be Bryce Young? Is it going to be Anthony Richardson? Some people think it might be CJ Stroud. Like, who's going to number one overall? If it's going to be the Panthers, I think the Panthers would take Richardson. That's who I think would intrigue them the most based on the way that they assemble their team and their playing style. Um,
I'm assuming he's going number one at this point.
I think so too. I think it's probably like my bet. I actually think it's going to be the Raiders. A lot of
Really?
people don't. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
They might just start him out of the gate if they did that. No, they would
No,
probably get Baker Mayfield or somebody like that.
well, or Jimmy still.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've talked about that. We talked about Jimmy a little bit. Where do you think Baker goes? Because like I know this fan base wants Baker back with the Rams. I will go on record saying Baker will not be back with the Rams.
No, I don't think
The
so.
guy I think the Rams get is either a draft pick or draft pick and this guy. I think they're going to get Mike White from the Jets because he's a free agent. He'll be relatively cheap. Like I said, this team doesn't have money. So like I don't know how you're going to
Right.
spend $8 million and get Baker Mayfield.
Well, I think not just the money for Baker. Baker really wants to start. I mean, Baker really wants to start. So
I
I
think he
think
deserves it too. I think he's a
I
starting
think he
NFL
deserves a
quarterback.
shot to compete. And I think in I think it's got to be a team. Maybe, yeah. If the Raiders don't trade up, if they've decided not to trade up for Anthony Richardson and they're just going to do a free agent, I think Vegas is probably a really good bet for Baker Mayfield. Some people, I don't know why people think the Texans don't want to draft a quarterback. But if that is the case, and maybe the Texans trade back, then I could see Baker Mayfield going, there. I think it's got to be a team that has a clear need for a quarterback. I think Baker would take less money to go in that situation. The 49ers, if if the 49ers want to move on from Trey and then Brock Purdy's going to be out most of next season and they want to get rid of Garoppolo, then I guess Baker's going to end up there, but I don't think the Baker thing is going to be a signing until like um towards the end, like after the draft and towards the end of free agency, and he knows where an opening is going to be. Someone in the comments made a good point. Holden said Commanders could sign Baker. That also feels like a possibility because they don't pick as high. Um, so yeah, I think it really is just literally going to come down to where there's an opening for a starting quarterback. I think that's all he cares about.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think and like I gotta say, like, there are people like, oh, if he goes to the 49ers, he's dead to me. Like, I can understand that, but you can't blame a guy if that's like his, you know, if that's his best opportunity, you can't blame him. You know what I mean? Um, Alexis, we should finish this up with Q&A.
I agree.
So let's put that little graphic up here. All right, full force, ask questions. Alexis will point them out and I'll highlight them.
Oh, in the chat.
Yeah, just say like
All right.
the name of the person and I'll just highlight it.
Someone did bring up something about the rumor about Stafford and the trading block, and I said that we talked about it, in depth earlier, but we do think it's a rumor. We don't buy it.
Yeah, exactly. Um Guys, be sure to ask your questions. Also be sure to like, subscribe, comment. We're simulcast on Alexis's YouTube channel as well as mine. Also on Twitter. I don't know how that happened. I can't turn it off. So it is on Twitter if you're over there watching. Thank you. Um let's see. So
Calvin Ridley comeback player of the year? Question mark. That's a question.
I mean
Probably
in
not.
that Jacksonville offense,
Well, I think he's going to have a very good year.
I'm
But
I'm thinking 1,100 yards, maybe like 8 touchdowns.
but here's the thing. Do you think the NFL is going to give a comeback player of the year
I knew
award
where
to
you were going
somebody?
with that.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley could get 30 touchdowns next season and they're not giving him that award. The NFL would not do that.
Yeah. I gotta agree with you because there's gonna be like guys coming back from injury. that they would rather give it to. I don't know. I could see Breece Hall winning it. Breece Hall tore his ACL. He was leading the league in rushing. If he comes back and, he goes off with Aaron Rodgers, to answer this person's question, Chacho, yes, I do think Rodgers goes with the Jets. Absolutely. I think the Jets are going to probably get him for a first. I'm not buying what I'm being told. I'm going to say they get him for a first. If that is prorated based on how much he plays, fine. But I think it's going to be a first rounder. And then maybe they also send like a fourth. I think that's a fair package. But I think he's going to be with the Jets.
I think he is too. The question about number 36, who's our guy from Holden?
Where'd it go? There it is.
So so I feel like my personal wish is Isaiah Foskey or BJ Ojulari at edge. But see, it's hard for me to say that because I also really would love, like, if DeJuan Jones could fall, I would be all over that, taking him, because I love DeJuan Jones and I think he could fall into the second round. But I guess I'm like, he said I can only pick one. Isaiah Foskey, I have to. If it's between him and DeJuan Jones, but
so
he's an edge rusher, by the way.
Yeah, without watching like a ton of tape on edge yet, I want it to be the edge. I would probably go with Ojulari just based on the little bit that I've seen. I'll have to get back to you on that as I get to know more about the draft. I just finished all the quarterbacks and running backs. I'm on wide receivers, and I'm going more in depth this year, so it's taken me a lot longer. But yeah, I think just Ojulari for now, and subject to change, big time subject to change. Okay.
So edge rushers.
Yes.
Both of us.
If you can rush the passer effectively, you got an arsenal, you got a pass rush plan, you don't have false steps every which way, and you got some athleticism and bend. Yeah, I'm interested. Let's see. Do you think the Rams could move Ernest Jones to outside linebacker? They did in the Super Bowl, but I don't know. I trust your opinion over mine. I'm going to say no, because they currently don't have anybody else playing inside linebacker that has actually started in games on the roster if they move Jones out of the position.
I agree. I think that his more natural position, in my opinion, is inside linebacker.
Oh, absolutely.
So like I just don't I don't think that that's going to be a thing.
Michael Hoyt has already converted to edge. He's going to drop to, I believe the plan, Alexis, is 275. He's going to drop down to. He's at 300 right now, or 310 or whatever. Crazy athlete. Really excited about his ascension. Do you guys think the Rams draft a quarterback, and who do you think they draft?
Okay, so here's what I feel is going to happen. I do think they're going to draft a quarterback, and I have two scenarios I've sold myself on. One is I think they're going to take Aiden O'Connell out of Purdue in like the 5th or 6th round. That feels to me like that could be a safe kind of like he's going to be consistent like type pick, right? Solid backup. Or I think they're going to take Stetson Bennett in the 6th round, who is not, I don't think he's as consistent and stable as O'Connell, but the potential, I think, was like there because of how he played in college. It might be a conspiracy we've all sold ourselves on, but I think that like Stetson would be more of like boom bust pick, right? Like he's kind of unsure.
You said like conspiracy. I thought you were going to be like, he's not actually 25. He's 24. Like,
well, no, I don't buy it. But I those are my, yes, I do think the Rams are going to take a quarterback, and I think those are the two guys they would target.
I know you see that comment.
He was developed in Elon Musk's lab.
Oh my
not even
God.
human.
That's insane. All right. I'm going to say it. Hendon Hooker will be the Rams' backup quarterback next year. I think they're going to get him early on. If this is a Sean McVay rebuild, if this is, hey, I came back because I want to build my team the way I want to build it, I think he fits everything that you look for in a Sean McVay offense. Another guy that could make sense is Jaron Hall out of BYU. I think those two, I think Jake Haener makes sense. But I think if you're looking for a guy that could be a franchise quarterback, I don't know if Jake Haener is that guy. Jake Haener kind of reminds me more of like Taylor Heineke. Maybe I would say a little bit better than Heineke. I think he could be better. But Jaron Hall could be a franchise quarterback if developed correctly. And I have no doubt in my mind Hendon Hooker can be if he comes back from this injury and he's okay and he's developed correctly. So I'll say Hendon Hooker. Unless they get a first-round pick, then I mean, I'll be honest with you, Alexis. If like Anthony Richardson fell, let's just say like he fell to the top 10, and the Rams got like, you know, a late first for Jalen Ramsey, I'd trade up for Anthony Richardson. I think he has an astronomically high ceiling to the point where if he pans out, he will be the best quarterback in the NFL not named Patrick Mahomes. Like, I have no doubt about it. If this guy's ceiling is met, he is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in all of football.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but
well, you and I both said he'll go number one. So,
well, right, yeah, I think he's going to Vegas or Carolina.
I like the Vegas thing. That's kind of a wild card. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, but doesn't it make so much sense?
I mean, it does. My only concern is that he's going to be with Josh McDaniels. I want him to succeed. Like, I don't know. I don't really like Josh McDaniels.
Garoppolo feels more like it. But I think they could do both. I think they could get Garoppolo and draft Richardson.
How would you guys feel if we got Levante David in free agency? There's no money to get Levante David. But, I mean, I love the guy. I want him in the draft when the Rams passed on him. That pissed me off. But, yeah, I don't know about you, Alexis. I don't think the Rams have the money for that.
Nope.
You're most welcome. Do you want the Rams to get OBJ?
So here's my theory. Okay. Do I want the Rams to get OBJ? Yes. Do I think they will? No. The only way that I could see the Rams, well, it's the money. So I don't. The only reason I could maybe see the Rams taking OBJ is if they traded Allen Robinson, which I think they're going to do anyway, and things fell exactly the right way. But I think OBJ is going back to the Giants. I'm telling you,
interesting.
I think they re-signed Daniel Jones. They've got Saquon Barkley, who's still really good friends with Odell Beckham. They need a receiver. OBJ wants to go somewhere where he's not only going to make a little money, but he's also going to be used. I mean, he said that. Like, he wants a role. He wants to really contribute, right? The Giants need a receiver. I mean, like you said, Isaiah Hodgins was their number one receiver last year. They let Sterling Shepard go. They let Kenny Golladay go. There's an opening there.
There is.
And I think, and we do know, news came out today that OBJ is holding like a workout for NFL teams in Arizona. So he wants it. And I'm just telling you, he's got the history with the Giants.
I don't know if they can make it work, but OBJ wanted to play with a certain quarterback. That certain quarterback could also be in New York, technically New Jersey. The Jets. The Jets just released Braxton Berrios saving about $8 million in cap space. Now, you could say part of that is to be able to afford Rodgers, but say they are able to figure this out. OBJ, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, right? You get rid of Corey Davis. I mean, OBJ gets to play with Aaron Rodgers. He gets to stay. He gets to go back to New York. He gets to play at MetLife again. That's his home stadium, and he's in a different uniform. I could see it. I could also see Dallas. I don't know why there's this infatuation with the Dallas Cowboys being America's team. They haven't won since I was born, but there is. And for whatever reason, there's always been like the links to him in Dallas. There's links to him in New England because he wants to play under Bill Belichick. My only thing is, I think OBJ wants total package. If he's deciding where he's going to sign, he wants to go to a place that's a contender, that has a quarterback that is going to get him targets, and that is going to pay him. If those four things do not align, he will not sign with you. So to me, I think that ruins any attempt with the Rams. I don't see how the Rams are going to be able to bring him back. Then you look at maybe the Chargers if he wants to stay in LA. You know, you have Keenan Allen, you have Mike Williams. What's the deal there? You get to play with Justin Herbert. I don't know if Dean Spanos wants to pay you. You know, that's a problem. But if they want to pay you, you're in LA, you have the quarterback, they are a contender, you know. You look at the Jets, like I already mentioned, the Giants to a degree, but do they have the quarterback? Is he okay with Daniel Jones? Like OBJ went from Eli Manning to then Baker Mayfield to then Matthew Stafford. Does he want to go back to Baker Mayfield or lower tier? Or does he want to stay in that Stafford range, maybe even shoot higher for an Aaron Rodgers, shoot higher, maybe, I'm not saying he'll go to Kansas City, but maybe he goes to Kansas City, with Patrick Mahomes. I just can't see OBJ going anywhere where it's not going to be like a top tier quarterback. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
I agree, but I'd love to see him in Chicago.
I mean,
just because they can afford him. But they're just not probably going to be where he wants them to be.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if they're like, oh, we'll give you $20 million a year, he's going to Chicago. I don't care what anyone says.
That's fair.
But I mean, aside from that, maybe like, I don't know, you look at Jacksonville, they might have to move, what's his name? Zay Jones. But, they have Marvin Jones there. He's getting older. You got Etienne out of the backfield as a pass catcher. You got Kirk, right? I mean,
Calvin Ridley.
Ridley will be there. Do you think Odell would want to be in Jacksonville?
No, I don't. I just don't think he'd want to be in the city of Jacksonville.
But he would have Trevor Lawrence, and to me, you gotta have the quarterback.
I do, but like I said, I think it's a big city. Like I said, like I think in New York, like the Jets or the Giants. The LA
I mean, he
Chargers.
played in Cleveland.
He did, but
he was traded there.
He was traded, or like maybe Chicago. But I don't know. I'm sold on the Giants. That's my pick.
I think right now, if I'm picking any team for Odell to go to, I think right now it's the Jets because I think they're going to get Rodgers, and I think he wants to play with Rodgers. I think he wanted to play with Brady, but Brady's retired. Tampa could have been an option. Like if Brady came back this year, he would be in Tampa, I think. I think there's a real chance Odell would have gone to Tampa. Baltimore, if Lamar Jackson comes back, is one to look out for. But again, it's playing in Baltimore. Not to ruin anybody, if you're from Baltimore, nothing against Baltimore. It's not New York.
It's just not a big enough city.
It's not LA, It's not Dallas. I mean, Dallas is a good city. It's big.
Well, like I said, it's just Baltimore's not a big enough city. I think he wants to go somewhere like.
And I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, the 49ers too are also in play. They just don't have the quarterback. But, Seattle would be in play, but I don't know if he would want to go play with Geno Smith. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go. All right. I'm going to go by this. I'm going to say, here are the three teams that Odell could go to. Number 1, the Jets. Number 2, Dallas. And number 3, I'm going to say the Rams. I'm going to throw that in there because if they are really committed to the offense, right, Alexis? If this is really all it is that they don't really care much about defense, they feel like they've figured it out and offense wins championships. We're going to do what the Chiefs did. Okay. Then, you bring back OBJ. OBJ hasn't played for another team outside of, the Rams. The last game he ever played was in the Super Bowl for the Rams. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, I think he's more likely to go back to the Rams than he is the Chargers. And I think the most likely is the Jets. I think it's going to be between the Cowboys and the Jets. I think the Giants, he has interest, but I think he looks at it as like it'll be cool to be back with like his friends with the Giants, like Saquon, all that. But he can do that and have a better team and a better quarterback and a more, Super Bowl ready team, with the Jets, and he's still around OBJ, or he's still around Saquon and all those guys. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'd say the Jets in Dallas, and I'd say the Rams potentially, and then Kansas City be my dark horse because, why would you bring back Juju Smith-Schuster when you could get OBJ for like the same price?
I agree.
And then, you do have Philly. Like, if Philly wanted to go with all out, like...
That would be insane. Do you think they have the money, though, to sign Odell Beckham Jr.?
No, I don't, because they're going to be losing a lot of guys. Because the thing that doesn't get talked about enough is that Howie Roseman went all in, and they lost. So, we'll see. The thing that's stopping them from the criticism is that the Eagles have a quarterback on a rookie deal. But when they pay Jalen Hurts, they're going to be in trouble. Like,
But don't you think that at this point, I feel like at this point, Odell Beckham Jr. is just going to be doing 1-year deals.
Yeah, he's probably going to be a mercenary at this point.
Yeah, I don't think that he's going to go to like a team like Philly and think he's going to get like a 3-4 year deal.
It'd be fun to see him on Philly, though.
That's what I'm saying. I think to him, he would take the 1-year deal in order to play with that Philly team because there'd be a very good chance that they could win.
What if he goes back home to New Orleans? Derek Carr is not the best quarterback, but we're talking probably a tier below Stafford, but he gets to play with Jarvis again. I know he really wanted to play with Jarvis Landry because that's his boy, but
that's actually interesting because he's back in his home state playing for his childhood team with his childhood best friend, Jarvis Landry.
Yep. And they have a quarterback now.
Well, they do, but the Saints, I don't think they're still there. Like, I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders. That's the thing that I think would drive OBJ away. That's a passion pick for Odell. Like, I still don't think he would do that, though. I think he wants a contender. All right, enough of Odell Beckham.
Yeah, talk about him all day. I know, it's sad. All right, let's see. We got... What do you guys think about the Lamar situation? Does he return to the Ravens? So we did talk about this earlier. For those of you that missed it, Alexis believes he comes back. I think he's going to end up in Atlanta. I think he's going to be with Arthur Smith.
If he doesn't go back, if he doesn't stay in Baltimore, then I think he's going to Atlanta. But I think the Ravens aren't going to. I think they're going to keep him and try to hope that they work out.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be very exciting, very interesting how this is going to, turn out. Because when you look at everything, all these chips that have yet to fall, the Rodgers, the Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo, like we're going to find out where all these quarterbacks are going, which could shape out the NFL draft as well and could change the landscape. I mean, you could say the landscape of the NFL will never be like fully changed. It always, it's never, not one move is going to completely change the landscape of the NFL, but there's always different things that show up and that can alter different things. And like right now there's a power vacuum essentially. You look at the AFC and it's just all these top tier quarterbacks. Then you look at the NFC and right now there's a power vacuum. Like who, now that, Rodgers is on his way out in all likelihood, now that Brady's retired, now that you could argue Stafford with the injuries, like who's going to take over that top spot? And like, I would make the argument that while Stafford's in that, certainly in that argument, it's Jalen Hurts. But then who else after Jalen Hurts and Matthew Stafford? You talk about Jared Goff. You talk about Dak Prescott. You talk about, Kirk Cousins. And so if I'm like the 49ers, I'm looking around and I'm like, yeah, Brock Purdy, nice story last year. And Trey Lance, we like. But, man, how do you not justify trying to make the Lamar Jackson deal work at that point? Because if the 49ers got Lamar Jackson, you want to tell me that they're not winning the Super Bowl if he stays healthy? That's the thing. I mean, it's like, look at what they've done without a top tier quarterback. And, I feel like the more and more we see these opportunities arise, like teams are going to they're going to go for the throat, I think. Like you're going to see like the Panthers maybe, when it was a pretty well balanced NFC, the Panthers aren't going for it. But maybe this year now they're like, we were going to rebuild, but Rodgers is leaving, Brady's retired, the Rams aren't going to be very good. So why don't we go out and we'll get, Lamar Jackson or something, or why don't we go out and we'll just go and get Anthony Richardson and we'll sign a quarterback. And if Anthony Richardson's better than we think, as far as his floor is concerned, then we'll just start him as soon as we can. Like it offers a lot. It's going to be exciting. I mean, next week is free agency, so a lot of stuff is going to go down.
Oh yeah.
But any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
I don't think so. Just thank you to everyone who tuned in. I mean, we can make these episodes. Sometimes they might be a little longer. We'll have more time to do Q&A, or maybe we could start Q&A early. Just because I know there were a lot of questions we didn't get to, but a lot. It's funny because it's like a lot. I feel like you mentioned all hell's gonna break loose in the next week, right? Like free agency. So it's like there's gonna be a lot of stuff to talk about. We're just starting to get like little inklings right now of like stuff that might happen, but like next week I think is gonna be insane.
Yeah. And the cool thing is like we just started doing this. And I think we had a really nice debut tonight. We appreciate everyone who joined in, and we're excited because we're gonna keep this thing up. We're gonna be consistent. We're gonna have this thing every Thursday night, and it's gonna be fun. Can't wait to see where this goes because, I mean, Alexis, I think all of the after we recorded Downtown Rims or whatever, all those conversations after that would go on for an hour or 2 hours. Like, obviously not everything, but the football stuff. It's cool to finally kind of share that. Just because I feel like this is less of a scripted show, right? Like less of like a
Right.
professional show and just more just us kicking back and talking about football.
Yeah, for sure. And being able to interact with other people and not just giving, our opinion, and definitely less informal than Downtown Rams. And we'll do it every week. And, yeah, next week, I have a feeling next week is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
That's going to be very intense.
We will not run out of anything to talk about next week on that episode. I don't think we ran out of anything to talk about this week. I mean, like you guys were awesome with our Q&A. We obviously would like to get more people in there, but for those of you who are just joining, we talked about Rodgers, where he's going. We talked about Matthew Stafford. We talked about Lamar Jackson, Daniel Jones' contract. We had some hot takes. I said, I think that Mac Jones is going to be traded to the 49ers. I left Alexis shook. And, be sure to go back and rewatch that if you missed us. But I think that's going to do it, unless you have anything else, Alexis.
I don't. Just that we'll see you next week.
All right. So that was the football show. So hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll be back next week. Same time, same day, and same place. Later, folks.